Dave Grohl is widely considered one of the greatest drummers in rock history. As a drummer, he's predominantly known for his work in Nirvana, though he's also played drums with many other bands, including his own band, the Foo Fighters, particularly in the early years of that band. When it comes to the Foo's second record, The Color and the Shape, I interviewed Chris Sheldon, the person who mixed that record. In this clip from that interview, he discusses how he mixed Dave Grohl's drums and more regarding the production side of that album. In particular, he discusses the songs Monkey Wrench and My Hero. Everything I do on this channel is 100% DIY. I'm the one putting together all the interviews and videos. Thanks for watching. So moving on to another song, what was it like for you working on Monkey Wrench?
Say that was the first one I did. And it was finding, that was the one where I had to find my way around the recording, and sort of like, okay, this is how they've done the drums, or, this is how they've done the guitars, and okay, what do we want to get out of this? It's like, what can I do? And so I'd have to experiment a little bit. It took a little while of like trying things out and thinking, that's not really working. And I knew Dave didn't want to use compression on the drum, so I had to scrap that. I couldn't use that automatically. So I had to find ways of making the drums, particularly the drums, sound as slamming and as exciting as possible without using the default, things that you have in your kit bag that you use. But what was happening was they were recording, it was a very early digital Pro Tools recording. And then because in those days, Pro Tools was really expensive to either buy or rent. So they were dumping everything onto analog multitrack for me to record, to mix off of. So it was recorded digital and mixed analog, which was kind of, different, to say the least. Because it was pretty early days of Pro Tools.
How do you mix analog a digital file?
Well, it was recorded onto tape, like as though it was just literally bounced onto tape in real time. So yeah, it must have been a real schlep for the guys up at Grandmaster doing it. Every time they finish a track and gone, yeah, that's okay, and then put it onto 24 track tapes for me to mix 48 track analog down at Skip Sailor, which is where I mixed the record in Hollywood. What I did was I used different EQs on the drums, which I had on different faders, and would just make them louder and quieter during the song. So when it gets to the chorus and I want the drums to cut through more, I would push up more of the bottom end in the snare drum or a bit more top end in the kick drum to really punch through. Things like that. I was very canny about it to make it work. And with the guitars, it was the same thing. It's like, okay, well, how far can I push it before it starts to sound, ridiculous or unlistenable or whatever? Because I really wanted it to sound as exciting as I possibly could. That was the thing for me. I didn't want them to live back. It's like, I'm sure a lot of mixers would say the same thing. What you never want is for somebody to go, yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
You want people to go either, what a racket, or well, hopefully they're going to say that, rather than that's terrible. But you want people to have an opinion. So I've always want to make things as exciting as possible, as within my ability, so that you live or die by it. You know what I mean? It's not like people go, yeah, pretty good. That's you don't want that.
That's the worst. That's the Let's Be Friends equivalent of music.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's nice. Yeah.
It's not you, it's me.
Yeah. So it was the first one I did. I wanted to make it as exciting as possible, and it's not difficult. It's an incredibly exciting song from beginning to end. And I think that one we didn't really. In fact, I think they were pretty happy with it. In fact, I remember Dave. The one comment I remember Dave saying at the end of it, and he goes, "It sounds like a record already." I think he was expecting the mixing to be more problematical or more difficult, whatever. So I hope he liked it. I mean, the record came out, they didn't remix it, so I guess they liked it. But it was, I think he was sort of like shocked about how much effort I put in to make it sound finished, sort of thing. This is exciting. You don't have to wait for the mastering or whatever. This is going to be slamming right now, sort of thing. And yeah, he was. I think he was quite taken aback with that. But that one we didn't really do very much. I mean, again, it's a pretty simple song. It's very exciting. There's the long bit where Dave, he's going da 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 da. It sounds like he's not taking a breath, and that was over like 2 tracks, I think, something like that. So there was obviously a bit where he ran out of puff, and then started singing again on a different track to take it over. And again, just to make it as exciting as possible, because that's like a big climax in the song. But yeah, it was a really fun track to start with, and I say it kind of set the benchmark. Really, it's like, okay, if we can get this one to, this is sounding as exciting as everything else, has got to meet this now. That's what you kind of want to get. And I think we may have, at the very end of the album, we may have gone back. I don't necessarily think to that one, but we may have gone back to a couple of tracks, which quite often happens. And you go, okay, well, this one didn't quite get the mark because, we've subsequently made this sound better. So let's go back, open that mix back up again, get the desk reset, and just make a couple of adjustments. Or, they've listened to it for a couple of weeks and think, you know what, I think the backing vocals are too loud, or something like that. So you'd make a couple of little changes at the end. But Monkey Wrench was a boom. There you go.
That's awesome. So that part you were talking about, the climax, where he ends up at one point just like holding that scream note.
Yeah.
This, I guess, is more of a production question, but how do you record that without the mic booming?
Well, just you can put a pad on a microphone. There's like a little it's like a muffler on an exhaust pipe. It'll cut down the racket, and you do the same thing with a microphone, so it stops the pressure, the amount of pressure distorting the microphone. And also you just you would get someone to stand back a little bit from the microphone, kind of things, and really bellow. And boy, can Dave bellow. It really is incredibly loud and really exciting. He can really nail those screams. So yeah, and again, and then just I think I put some delays and stuff on it to make it really kind of accentuate it, sort of thing. But yeah, it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, no, I think that's really cool. I guess, did you have to lower the dB on that one to make it not super loud?
I honestly don't remember. I mean, possibly, yeah. I don't remember. I mean, it's one of those things that when you're mixing stuff, each mix is a little bit different, and like, I'm mixing a record right now, and you come across certain things and like, oh, that's that too loud. It's a constant state of flux, all mixes, until you finally go, yeah, it's done. And even on the final listen through, I'm going, stop it, I just got to change that. There'll be one little thing that's still bugging me, sort of thing.
So last question about Monkey Wrench. At the very beginning, one of the parts that I like is that like half-second stop, right? Like the guitar's quiet.
Yeah.
And then it goes, was it written like that, or did you guys like in production decide to do that?
I don't know whether that stop was something that Gil came up with or whatever. I don't know. But I do know that when I had to like mute everything on the desk at that point, because I wanted it to be like a dead stop, and I didn't want any overhanging sort of noise or hiss or anything like that. So it was like da-da-da-da, bam, and almost as many fingers as I could to mute things, and then let them go again straight away, and then go on, and then the next section, bam, they do the same thing. So yeah, that was kind of fun, but I don't know. You'd have to ask Gil. So what was happening was they would get it done. I would start mixing, and I'd finish at about, I don't know, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, something like that. And then I'd cruise by to Grandmaster with a DAT tape, which is what we used to do back then, the kind of rough mixes, that overnight mix. And I would give it to Gil and Dave, and they're sweating away doing guitars and stuff, and then they could listen to it, and then in the morning they could come down to the studio and we'd finalize the mix. That's basically how it was going on. And so I then I could go out and go for a drink in Hollywood with some friends while these poor bastards were still working till 3 a.m.
In terms of screaming, I wasn't going to ask you about this song, but it just popped in my head. The actual song, Color and the Shape, he's screaming throughout the whole song. How is that one to mix?
Again, I mean, it's just you just deal with what you've got, kind of thing. So if I push up the faders and go, okay, he is screaming his ass off in this track. Okay, well let's find out how this works. I mean, it's not like you have kind of like, okay, this is a screaming track preset, this is what we do. You know what I mean? It's like you always have to sort of, you deal with what you get. I mean, sometimes you'll be mixing songs and there'll be something completely left field, and you're thinking, okay, well, I don't know what they were thinking, but all right, I've got to make that now work within the context of the song. And that's my job. That's what I'm employed to do, is to make, this disparate bunch of musical instruments and blend it into something that sounds, people can put on a record and go, oh yeah, I love that, rather than what the fuck is that, like this trombone come popping out at one point. I've got to make it work, and that's what I get paid to do, and hopefully most of the time I get it right. And so the Foo Fighters mixing was not complicated. I mean, because it was it's just guitar, bass, and drums, and I was lucky. It was incredibly exciting songs, really well delivered. I mean, the one interesting thing with Dave is he, and I wasn't expecting this, but again, it wasn't really a problem, is that he double tracks and triple tracks his vocal. In other words, he sings it 2 or 3 times to create one lead vocal. Most people would just sing it once and it's just a lead vocal, and he does it again 2 or 3 times to get this sound that he prefers on his voice. And he's very good at it. I mean, a lot of people can't do it very well, but it creates this sort of slightly chorusy almost sort of sound. And so that was something that we had to work on all the time. And there was a couple of moments where Gil and Dave would argue back and forth, and Gil would say, let's just have one vocal on this part, and Dave would be like, oh, I can't do it, kind of thing. It was very funny, and it was all good fun, it wasn't any big drama about it. But I remember that was sort of, so you get a good vocal sound, you're thinking, and I've got another one, and another one, and I had to make sure that everything worked together. So there was this vocal sound that Dave has, and to make it work. Again, not a big drama, but it was an interesting thing to have to go, okay, this is how the Foo Fighters should sound.
That is awesome.
Yeah, it was. I mean, there was lots of crazy, little things, but that I'm remembering actually as we're speaking. But as I say, it was fun.
So, Chris, what was your experience like working on My Hero?
There was a couple of tracks, My Hero, and I think Hey Johnny Park, maybe some more of them. But I definitely used the room sound. Basically, what they'd done is they wanted the drums to have a certain big, clattery, exciting big sound, and at the back of the studio was a parking garage that was, you could close it. It was enclosed, and so they set the drum kit up outside in this parking garage, which is unusual. It's not the sort of thing you would normally do. And the recording was done. I wasn't there, but I think that's where the recording was actually done, or the kit was aimed at the parking lot. But basically, it created this massive reverberation room sound on the drums, which had a really unique sound. So the big slamming sound that you hear on things like My Hero are A, double track drums, and B, recorded in a parking garage. And so, if I get young bands who sort of go, hey, yeah, we want to get that sound, I'm going, well, I'm not absolutely sure I can get that. And then, and that's sort of tricky, because you've got to try and make it sound big and exciting, but not overpowering, sort of thing. So it just becomes just all I can hear is drums, So but you want it to sound exciting. And then on top of that, there was a second drum kit playing some slightly different parts. I can't really remember, but it was playing together, but also playing some slightly different rhythm in the verse, I think. So again, I had to try and figure out a way to make the drums work together. And it was just a case of trial and error, just one bit louder, one a bit underneath. It was tricky, but it worked okay. But a lot of people have asked me, oh, how does he play that bit in, I'm going, well, it's 2 drum kits. It's 2 different parts.
Was it him playing the same drum kit twice, or was it literally 2 separate kits?
He would play, I think, I don't actually know that, whether it was 2 separate kits, but he definitely played 2 different kits on 2 different takes. So he'd finish the one and then he'd go back and play another one, playing a different rhythm or part or whatever over the top of it. But again, once I kind of got that sorted out, the guitars, you just feed them in. But it was a great, I love that song, My Hero. I think it was just a fantastic song. And it's interesting, at the end of the chorus, there's this little and it's one goes down to one guitar. And I remember being surprised because I'd it's not on the record, the big guitar stop, it just goes down to this one little guitar motif and then slams back in for the next verse. But on the radio, because of the compressors on the radio, what's interesting is, and I didn't realize this was going to happen, but the compressors push up because the music stops. So this one little guitar becomes really loud and then pulls down again when the drums slam back in again. Yeah, it was an interesting. I just noticed it when it came on the radio. I was like, oh, okay, well, it wasn't designed to be like that, but that's what happened.
Listen to it at home on my computer. It's a different sound.
It would sound differently, yeah, to how it sounds on the radio because of the way the compressors work on the song on the radio. Yeah, it's interesting, but it's I love that song. I thought it was great. In fact, that they were doing the video for that in LA. I was over doing something else, and I came down to say hi and meet up with actually John Silver, who was the manager. I came down he said, "Oh, come down, we're shooting the video," and I met Taylor, the drummer, for the first time. He just joined the band then. So that's, when they were shooting it, he was like, oh, hi, kind of thing, just nice to meet you. But yeah, that's when they were shooting that video. So that was, I guess, a few months afterwards or whatever it was when they were doing that.
That is so cool. Is there anything else peculiar about the recording of that song?
No, not really. No, I mean, the recording side of it, I mean, you'd have to talk to Brad and Gil, but for the mixing, no, unfortunately, it was boringly easy, I'm afraid to say, really. It was, say, once we got in a groove in the studio, it was, it was fairly straightforward. I mean, Dave would come down in the evening sometime. If they had some time off, we'd go out to eat or whatever. But most of the time I was just in there on my own, just with my assistant, Jason, who was great and a fantastic assistant. He was brilliant. And Skip Saylor was a great studio as well. A really cool studio. I do remember, actually, one funny thing. I do remember when I was mixing that, the studio did a lot of rap kind of artists as well. And so this was 97. And there was some beef going on between some rap guys. And I think in the other studio, there was somebody like Dr. Dre or somebody like that before he had his own setup. There was a kind of big guy. And there was obviously some worry because they had like armed guards like standing at the front in the entranceway. And I remember like the first time I came in, and this guy, with like a gun, he's like, "Who are you?" And I'm like going, "I'm working in Studio A." And then, I had my little Toyota Camry or whatever the hell it was. I was like, dude, I am not a threat, and then after like a couple of days, they're like, "Hey man," kind of thing. I was just like, "Okay, sorry." But yeah, it was quite funny. And they were just there for a few days, but I just remember that rocking up and it was like, wow, okay, he's a dude with a gun. That was pretty heavy, but it was cool. It was good. It was really, I was just generally there on my own doing it, When the band came down, I remember they really occasionally the three guys would come down, Pat and Nate and Dave, but most of the time it was just Dave, and he was just really easygoing. I mean, he was very, I think I asked him a couple of things about Nirvana at the time. I can't remember, but I can't remember now what I asked him, but he was very open about it. He was very happy to talk about it. Wasn't like a taboo subject or anything like that. The thing that people always ask me is like, what is he like? I'm saying, how you see him on TV and interviews, that's exactly how he is. He's just a super lovely, nice guy. He is what he is. He's a force of nature and a lovely man.
That's awesome. I love that because, I'm not really into the stuck-up celebrity type, you know what I mean?
Oh, man, he's so far from that. He is so far from that. No, he was great. I would love to work with him again one day. That would be great. But I really loved working on that record. And interestingly, he tends to sort of change his the team quite regularly, it seems, as well. So I wasn't really surprised not to get to be asked to do another one, because it's he's worked with Alan Moulder, he's worked with Butch Vig, he's worked with Gil, he's worked lots and lots of different people, James Brown, And then suddenly, he works with a whole new team, and I think that's great actually, because I think that's how, as an artist, you keep fresh by changing your team around. I think it's actually quite a good idea.
Is there anything about the way he recorded music or the way he enjoyed listening to mixes that was stuck out, that was different than other artists you work with?
No, unfortunately, I'd love to say there was, but no, it was, he would just sit there and go, yeah, okay, yeah, sounds great. He was very easygoing about it, kind of thing. Or there might be one thing we'd discuss, but no. I mean, I'd know he'd arrived because the door would, like, this size 10 DM boot would go pow, and the door would fly open, and hi, I'm here, and that was it. And it would come Dave, and the day would start. It was great. It was fun. It was just really, I have very fond memories of it, and even as long ago as it was, and it was, and it was the gift that keeps on giving, man. I mean, people still, name check their record and say, oh, we want the guitars to sound like the Foo Fighters. I'm like, okay, well,
That's awesome.
yeah, hopefully I can do even better than that now. Let's see,
Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe for more because there is a lot more to come. All the videos on my channel are original. I'm the one filming, editing, and conducting all the interviews. So if you guys like what you see and you want to support, the best way to do so is honestly just to subscribe. Thanks for watching.